Hi folks, welcome to Bear Mountain today. Today we are going to do a biochar burn, but we're not going to be doing it in the way we've done it in the past with vertically stacking the stuff on an open pit or open pile and basically burning it. In this method, we're going to be doing what's called the trench method. So stay tuned. I think you're going to find this interesting. Okay, the trench method is where I found it was on a YouTube channel run by a gentleman. He goes under the name of SkillCult. He has a lot of different types of videos on homesteading and things of that nature, but he has a whole series on how he has progressed in terms of trying to make biochar without having to have some kind of fancy retort kiln or something of that nature. And he came up with a methodology that or at least he adapted it and did a really good job of presenting it, where he basically is digging a trench that is maybe 3 feet wide at the top, 2 feet wide at the bottom, so the sides are angled in, and is typically about 6 to 8 feet long. And the whole idea is that by burning in that trench, he was controlling the oxygen to the burning fire. And as he piled more fuel on top of the fire, the coals underneath would be basically starved of oxygen and would create char. So he's done a really good job in terms of explaining the system and how it worked, and it's actually quite simple. It's just like we were talking about. You're digging a trench about 3 foot wide, and you're sloping the sides, and as you slope the sides, you would put the material you're digging out of the hole to the sides of the hole till you get to the point where the trench is maybe 2 feet deep, if it's that deep. And the whole idea is that controlling the oxygen flow will increase the level of char that's made and lessen the actual amount of ash. Now, the interesting thing about this methodology is it doesn't require a tight stacking like when you're burning on top on a pile. You have to make certain the fuel and stuff is stacked very tightly in alternating layers. In this case, what he's doing is we're taking the materials after the trench is built and we're laying them in and burning them a layer at a time. So once the trench is full, then it's really the same process as when you're burning on top of in a pile. You quench it with water to basically extinguish the flame and cool off the char underneath so it doesn't turn into ash or catch on fire. That is in essence what we're doing here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to, on this spot where we have an old burn pile, is we're going to dig a trench. It's about 8 feet long and 3 feet wide and 2 feet at the bottom. And it's going to be ultimately, when it's finished, from the top peak of it to the bottom about 2 feet deep. We have a large amount of blackberry brush and prunings from fruit trees, etc. On the property, that what we want to do is we want to create this char as quickly as we can and as large of amounts as we possibly can so that we can get through the brush before the burn season is over. And then also too, what we want to do is we want to use this char in our high tunnels to help improve water retention as well as, give it a little extra home for the microbes in the soil. But a lot of it has to do, what we're trying to do is increase the water retention so that we can more effectively control moisture in the soil. So step one, we got to dig the trench. Let's get to it. Okay, it took us about an hour, maybe a little more, to dig the trench out. When we laid it out on the ground, it was 3 foot wide by 8 feet long. So as we dug and sloped the sides in, it got a little wider on the top than we anticipated. So we ended up with it being approximately about 4.5 feet wide at the very, very tippy top. So that's 1.5 feet more than we kind of anticipated, but I don't think that's a big of a deal. It just means we're gonna have more capacity to burn in here than we think. But the bottom of the trench was definitely at 2 foot where the slope ends. So we've got a pretty good gradient when you look at the actual trench itself all the way around. It's 8 foot long, and it's approximately, on the downhill side, looks like about 18, maybe a little more, maybe about 19 deep. And on the uphill side, it's about 20.5. So, you know, without surveying equipment, that's not too bad. So we tried to make it level because we're on a slope as best we can so we can get a kind of an even fill on it, but I think it'll be just fine. And after we got finished the loose dirt, we just went around the edge. I went around the edge and I tamped it down with my foot just to kind of pack it in. This dirt has a lot of moisture in it, so it's not going to be that big of a deal, and it packed down really nice. So we've got the trench sloped and ready to go. And I think the next step is we're ready to burn, and so we got to get all our stuff together and do our first burn on it. Now what's going to be cool about this trench is it's going to be reusable. So after we do a burn, and we'll burn all the way near to the top, we'll quench it. This is probably going to be somewhere around, I don't know, 40 plus cubic feet of material in this thing if you were to fill it to the top and got, you know, a really good return on biochar. So probably in a typical burn, I guess, you know, I'm just going to be conservative and say we're going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 cubic feet at a pop. Now when you say biochar at that kind of volume, that will help get enough into our tunnels. We want to get all our beds at least a coating in the first inch or two of the topsoil, and this should give us, after about 3 or 4 burns of this, should give us more than enough to do our tunnels for this year. And we have a lot of brush, so we'll see, you know, how many burns we can get. So it's going to be reusable, and then when we're finished burning for the season, after we've cleaned out the last one, we'll just push the sides in, and basically it'll bury whatever remnants of biochar are in here, and this area will be okay to be used again. So next step, we go to burn. Okay, so we're ready to burn today. Yesterday we dug the trench, got that all settled up. Now how we're going to do this is going to be a top burn. So we're not going to light from a bottom of a pile, but a top of a pile. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put down some finer stuff. I've got some old dried grass and some dried leaves and some smaller dried out older blackberry canes. And we're going to line the pit with that in it and start the fire with that. And then as that begins to catch on fire and grow, then we're going to put smaller twig type stuff over it, and eventually that'll get hot enough, and then we can start burning the larger stuff and then start moving over piles of the blackberry brush itself once we get a good amount of coals down at the bottom. So the whole process is going to be burning from the top down, and then just keep piling it on, piling it on, piling it on until we get enough of material that we have burned down, and burning it any further, it's still near the lip of the pit itself. So this is going to take several hours, probably the rest of the afternoon, so we probably get looking at 4 or 5 hours to do the job. And then once we pretty much got as far as we can go today, then we'll quench it down with water and really soak it and let it sit overnight. And then after that, we can just dig it out. So I'm going to start by putting the material in and getting it lit up. Okay, we burned a lot of material here. Matter of fact, just about everything that I had available today that was dry enough to burn that I could get to the pile in a reasonable manner, we burned, and I didn't fill up the pit. I only got about, looks like about 2/3 full, and I got some oversized pieces that haven't completed burning. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna quench this thing down, and anything that didn't burn or was partially burned we'll set aside and we'll use it in the next burn. And we'll see, you know, how much we get out of it. After we quench it, it's first thing it's gonna do is it's gonna make a huge pile of steam and smoke and stuff like that, and maybe a little fly ash might go up in the air too, but we'll try to minimize that. And we'll just pump enough water on this thing where it is soaked. It'd be, think of it just like you try to put a campfire out after you've been, you know, having a campfire up in the woods and when you're camping. So it's the same idea. We want to get this thing soaked and soaked fast and stop any more of this gray ash from being built. So that's the next step. And then after that, it just has to sit for about 24 hours, at least until it's really, really cool. And then tomorrow we can come out and dig it out. And then from that point, it's biochar, and it's just like we've done in the other videos in terms of how to inoculate it and charge it and get it ready for use. So, gonna make some steam. Okay, it's still got quite a bit of hot in it, but you can see there's quite a bit of biochar in here. There's some oversized pieces, but that's okay. We'll just sort those guys out. Some of them didn't burn, but definitely all the blackberry did. And so we'll just kind of keep poking this to get the heat out. Like I said, the big size stuff, we'll just try to burn it again. I'm just gonna push it back here into the back of the pile. Still got quite a few pieces that were quite big, but still, I mean, that's pretty deep. Probably after we get it all sorted out, we probably got 15 cubic feet in here maybe. Some of the big guys. This looks pretty good actually. I think it's still pretty hot right here. When you think about how much blackberry we got rid of, this is pretty amazing. Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. It is just really hot. I had to sit back about 20 feet away from it.
Yeah, it was pretty hot. There's some big pieces that they were too big for what I was doing today, so. Oh, that didn't burn. That can't be good. Sometimes you get pockets like that. All right, we've wetted it down and extinguished it. For the most part, we'll just keep coming back and wetting it. Some of the oversized pieces are still kind of hot, so I'll just kind of keep, throwing water on those guys. But we got easily 12 inches of biochar here, and I'll just keep coming back here for the next hour or two and just checking on it. I want to make sure that all the water's in it. But yeah, what we did is we turned 4 million yards of blackberries, no, with a lot of blackberries, into something now that we can use in the tunnels. And as we talked about before, what we're going to do with this stuff is the whole idea is we want to increase the water retention in our tunnels to help during the summertime when it is warmer, so we more effectively use the water in the root zone of the plants. And this is something that I think we'll be doing. We'll be adding it, you know, the equivalent of probably like 1% a year for several years. And this is our first burn on this. And to tell you the truth, I really thought I would fill this pit all the way to the top with as much blackberry and stuff as we had, but I cleaned out what was usable to burnable today. And
you also ran out of personal fuel.
Yeah, I ran out of personal fuel. But I'm still impressed with how much we got out of it. So, you know, again, kudos to SkillCult. He really came up with a cool idea, and it really works. And so we'll be able to dig this stuff out tomorrow. We can burn again if the conditions are right, real fast on it. I mean, if you needed to, you could clean it out, you know, probably within a few hours, do another burn in it, you know, if you were so inclined to be so industrious. But this thing, it held up well. The sides didn't slough in or anything. So I think we'll get, you know, the season's use out of it before we're done with it. So this is probably, if it's a foot deep, and like I said, the trench was 8 foot long, and I got maybe 2 feet on the end here that is just oversized material. So I'm looking at it probably 2.5 feet by 6. So let's just say 12 by, that's 2 times 2. Let's say we got about probably 15 cubic feet in here, you know, which is really good. Because I got to tell you, biochar per cubic foot, when you buy this stuff at a supply place, can go anywhere from $20 to $30 a cubic foot. So this is just, you know, a super way of taking what's on your property, already have, and turning it into something useful. So thanks for joining us today. And as always, I want you to stay safe out there and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See, Aunt Denise is back.
Yeah, bye. Bye.